Ladies and gentlemen, this story came out on agripulse.com, and it's bringing out something very significant because of all of the extreme weather that we have been having. October 12th, 2018, Hurricane Michael devastates southern crops. And less than 3 weeks ago, Florence devastated the crops in the Carolinas. What happens is these hurricanes, as you all know, dump excessive rain. Too much rain on a crop will destroy it. And that's what's happening in the South. A lot of these crops, they are just dying out from excessive rain. Because this is all weather related, there's really not much you can do about it, but just understand billions of dollars in damage to crops, livestock, because a lot of times the livestock, if they're left outside during the hurricane, they die. And sometimes if they're indoors and it's a bad flooding, they die. In fact, they had hundreds of pigs die. I think it was Hurricane Martin. It was one of the hurricanes a few years back. And they had hundreds of pigs drowned to death. And they had to bulldoze all of these pig carcasses into a big mass grave. So those things do happen. So those storms are very destructive, especially one coming in like Hurricane Michael at 155 miles an hour. That is just going to do total destruction to a crop. So now in Florida, many of these farmers are declaring their crops as a total loss. This is really important, because as we move into the fall, this means higher prices at your grocery stores. Now, what crops were impacted? The notorious ones that we know are in the South. The hardest hit from Hurricane Michael, especially the winds, was the cotton crops, the peanuts, the pecans, poultry, peppers, tomatoes, squash. Dairy producers were the hardest hit from the wind and rain from the hurricane. Now, one thing I can tell y'all about pecans, my grandmother on my mom's side had 8 pecan trees on her property. And she also owned her house and 2 other houses that she rented out on her street. I mean, she was quite a businesswoman when I go back and just look at the things that she did. Well, she would take the pecans from those 8 trees as they would fall, box them up, and she took them to a manufacturing plant in town that would shell and package them and sell them in the supermarket. And she took that money and she paid the property taxes for her house and the 2 other houses that she rented out. And that's what she did. I mean, what a simple life to be able just to use the resources that you have on your land to pay your property taxes. But that's what she did. So, ladies and gentlemen, Georgia is the largest pecan producing state in the country. And farmers will be reeling for years from all of the damage it took from Hurricane Michael. Remember, those pecans are just dangling on the tree. So when 155 mile an hour winds, but see, by the time the storm got to Georgia, I believe the wind speeds dropped down to 75 miles an hour, but still it's enough to rip those pecans off of the tree. and they'll go blowing all over the place. And it's not like you can just easily go out and recover that. You can't. So one farmer said he had 1,200 acres of pecan trees, and half of those trees were knocked down by the winds, and the other half of the trees, all of the nuts were completely stripped off of the trees. So you can pretty much say they lost everything for this season. You might find some on the ground, but those pecans are going to completely blow away. Those types of damages to pecan orchards, they're not just annual loss. A Georgia Farmer Bureau spokesperson, Jeffrey Harvey. These type of losses have always happened in farming, ladies and gentlemen. Sometimes they will lose part or all, in this case, from the winds. This person completely lost trees that were downed and lost all of the pecans on the tree. So all they can do is try to replant the trees they lost and try to harvest again the following year. There's nothing else left for you to do. Crop losses, ladies and gentlemen, also drives the suicides among the farmers up in this country. It really is a tough industry to be in, especially if you can't do your own work, which many of them in the South can't. They have to rely on immigrants to do the work. They can't be out in the hot, burning sun all day long, even with sunscreen on. They can't be out there all day. They're going to bake and just kill over. So when the immigrants walk away, the crops rot and go unharvested. They can't do that work on their own. They need a lot of help, just like they needed a lot of help during chattel slavery. We weren't down there. Our forefathers were not down there for no reason. Yeah, they may own the farm, but they don't work the farm. There's a big difference. All of the unharvested fields were extremely vulnerable to the storm, which came ashore as a Category 4 hurricane. It's still too early for overall damage estimates, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's very unusual for a storm to come slamming in at that kind of speed. So the damage is irreparable. Okay. So it's clear the damage is extensive, especially for cotton. Cotton farmers in the Carolinas lost about 10% of their crop after Hurricane Florence hit, and the damage is expected to be much worse from Michael, he said. So Georgia is the second largest cotton producing state. In fact, my parents both picked cotton. They both did. And I do know for a fact, just going down there as a child with them, when they would just go back home and visit their parents and their siblings, we would go past those cotton fields. And there was a lot of them. There was a lot of cotton fields when you go driving through Georgia. So they're saying that many of these crop losses can be up to 70%. That is huge. That is huge. And that would mean these farmers will not have another opportunity to make money until the next season. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of this from one storm. One storm. It's just like when I was telling you in the hangout I did yesterday. Michael destroyed 200 miles of homes and businesses all over the place. 200 miles of destruction. It may take them a whole decade or more to even recover down there in the panhandle. It's no joke. Georgia is also a major vegetable producing state with about $1.1 billion worth of production annually. And the state's farmers were in the middle of their fall harvest when Michael struck. Much of the squash, cucumbers, peppers, and tomatoes are being harvested or were just about to be harvested. Okay. So poultry got slammed too. Okay. And you might say, well, why would poultry be slammed? Because, ladies and gentlemen, they keep these chickens in what they call poultry houses down there. And the houses were destroyed by the hurricane. So they have a total of about 85 poultry houses down in Georgia that were destroyed. That means your chickens probably died from the hurricane. Some of them got away. You pretty much lost out on the poultry just as well. It's like I said, it's a tough industry to be in, but it does pay. Like if you have a good year in farming, it does pay well. It's very good pay. But if you have a year like this, because of two major hurricanes that were very destructive, you lose out for that whole year. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.